Creating an application. When implementing an application, the first thing you need to ask yourself is what type of solution you are creating, because that will determine what kind of projects you will add to your solution. When adding a solution, the first thing you need to do is to click the New Project link on the Start page or select File New Project in the main menu. In the New Project dialog, you have a menu to the left with the different categories of projects. Let's say you're creating a WPF application or a Windows Forms application. Then you select the Windows tab in the menu and select the appropriate project template in the project list. The project type we will be using during the first modules of this course is the console application that you find under the Visual C# tab. If you scroll down the list, you can see that there are a lot of different project types that you can use. Give the project a name in the name field and give a location in the location field. You can click the Browse button to browse to the location where you want the solution created. The name in the solution field is by default the same as the first project you add. If you know that you will add more projects to the solution, then you might want to change the solution name to a more encompassing name. I suggest that you keep the checkbox Create Directory for Solution checked, because then the project will be placed in a folder belonging to the solution. This is especially important if you're going to add more than one project to the solution. If source control is installed in Visual Studio, then you might consider checking the Add to Source Control checkbox and automatically add the solution and project to the source control. When you click the Add button, the solution and the project will be created and displayed in the Visual Studio IDE. Along the right side of Visual Studio, you find the Solution Explorer that displays the files and references contained within the solution. In the Properties folder, you find the assemblyinfo.cs file that contains the information about the assembly, versioning, and other settings. In the References folder, all the external assembly references are listed. As you can see, all the necessary references for this project have already been added. You can add references to other assemblies as needed, system or custom created. To add the reference, you right-click on the References folder in the Solution Explorer and select Add Reference. If it's a web reference, you select Add Service Reference. Or if you want to install a NuGet package, then you select Manage NuGet Packages. The project might contain an app.config file that contains configuration information for the application. You can add configuration information as needed to this file. Lastly, you have a C# file with a .cs file extension. This is the code file that contains the project namespace and the program class that holds the static main method that is the entry point to the console application we are building. This method will be the first method to be executed when we run our application. In the main method code block in between the curly braces, you can write code and place calls to other methods that will be executed when the application starts. As a first example, we will add a console writeLine method call that will write some text to the console window. And we will also add a call to the console readLine method that will wait for user input, keeping the console window open. Note that all commands in C# is terminated by a semicolon. To run the application, you can click the Start button in the toolbar or press F5 on the keyboard. As you can see, we got the message written in the console window and it's waiting for user input. Let's say you wanted to add another project to the same solution, maybe a DLL for a business or a data layer. To do that, you right-click on the solution name in the Solution Explorer and select Add New Project, or you could go to the File menu and select Add New Project. Then you select the appropriate project type and give it a name in the name field. If it's a DLL, then you select the class library template. Note that the folder is pre-selected to the current solution folder. After clicking the Add button, you can see that we now have two projects in the Solution Explorer. Let's add a method that returns a value to the DLL class. If you want to call this method from our application, we would have to add a reference to the class library in our application. We do this by right-clicking on the References folder and select Add Reference. In the dialog, we open the Solution Projects tab, select the assembly name and click the OK button. You can see that the reference has been added to the DLL assembly in the References folder. Then we go to the Program.cs tab or click the file name in the Solution Explorer. Create an instance of the class that's in the class library and display the value returned from the method call using a write-line command. We will look at classes and methods in more detail in other modules of the course. When we run this application, it will jump into the other assembly and fetch this value, and return it to our application and print the value in the console window. And here you can see that we got the value back.